In this video, I'm going to share with you a great exercise that I used to do all the time. It's basically 2, 5, 1, 3, 6 over and over and over again. In this case, we're going to do it in F, but you can practice it in all keys, which I highly recommend that you do. And essentially, I'm going to give you a backing track, bass and drums, that repeats over and over again so that you can just keep the backing track going and practice the lines that I'm going to give you in the scales. So the first thing I'm going to do is play the exercise for you as if I were improvising over this chord progression. And then we're going to come back, tear it apart, take a look at some of the scales, take a look at the chord voicings, and take a look at the rhythm so that you really know how to dive into this exercise and make the most out of it. By the time you complete this exercise and you have it under your fingers, it's really going to help you with a ton of jazz standards. Very, very useful stuff. Let's get started. All right, so here's the exercise on the screen. It's basically 2, 5, 1, 3, 6 in the key of F, and we're going to repeat it over and over again. So as the page goes down, the chords keep going, but essentially it's just repeating over and over again. And I've got some scales here that I'm going to share with you. Let me play the exercise first so you get an idea of how I'd like it to sound. And then we're going to dive in and tear it apart a bit. Let's get going. Okay, sounds like a lot of fun, right? Sounds like jazz. Yeah, it does. That's because this progression appears over and over again in pretty much all standards. Well, maybe not all of them, because some of them are modal, whatever. Anyway, in terms of standards, you can really count on this progression. And essentially what it is, and let's take a screenshot here, and I just want to quickly show you what we're talking about, which is, this is 2 minor, this is 5, 7. Might want to move my coffee mug so it doesn't fall into the piano. This is 1 major 7, and this is 3 half diminished 7th, or 2 minor 7 flat, or 3 minor 7 flat 5 to 6 7 flat 9. And that progression again appears in multiple places in standards. So if we were just playing comping, so yeah, I mean, that progression is very, very common. 2, 5, 1, 3, 6, basically cycle of fifths stuff. In this case, we're only in the key of F. So in the left hand, what I want you to do is comp those chord voicings. And we've talked about these chord voicings before. It essentially is a G minor 9 chord going to a C7 13 chord, basically just dropping one note. And then the F major 7. And then when we get to the A minor 7 flat 5, this chord here, interestingly enough, that's the same voicing for an F7 13 chord. in this case, first position. And then the D7, also for an A flat 7 chord, which is the tritone substitution. Anyway, there's our tritone. And then we throw in those two notes, which is essentially the sharp 9 and the sharp 5, back to the G minor 7. So if you were to play that with the backing track, it would sound like this. And of course, it just repeats itself over and over again. In the right hand, what you're looking at is the scale, which is the bebop scale. And we're ending on the 7th. Okay, so that's the A minor 7 flat 5 to D7 flat 9, which is essentially, okay? So what I want you to do is just use that as a guideline. Those are basically the bebop scales. So one more time. And again, just the scales, but what I want you to do is play that over and over again multiple times with the backing track to get that feel, right? That 8th note feel where the accents are in the right place. Now remember, the accents are here when you're playing jazz swing, right? Okay, so that's very important because a lot of people swing backwards. They do things like this. And that's not swing, not in the true sense of the word. It's basically shuffle. But swing is very different. The accents are really on that backbeat. So now you have the scales and you have the chords and you have the backing track. And of course, like I played in the beginning, you want to start stretching your imagination in terms of playing not just the bebop scale, but also the chords themselves. Maybe if I play a little bit slower, you might consider things like this. Start with the scale and then move to the chord. So again, I just started with the G minor 7 bebop scale. And then I switched to the C7 chord starting 3, 7, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And then a Stitt bit at the end, bebop. So again, that's a Stitt bit that you can find. I talk a lot about Stitt's bits in some of my other recordings on this channel. So you might want to search for Stitt's bits and find that kind of stuff. We're talking about Sonny Stitt and breaking down his playing into small bite-sized chunks. So, and then you might want to do that with the F major 7 chord. And then A minor 7 flat 5. And what I'm doing there is I'm stepping away from the chords and the scales and just trying to play little melodies. And then of course, as you continue to practice and find your way around those chords, you will continue obviously with the backing track. And that's what's really important. So the best thing you can do right now is to play this exercise with the scales just as is. Obviously with the backing track. And then once you've got that under your fingers, then just play whatever your fingers fall on within those chords, within those scales, and eventually, over a little bit of time, you're going to start to sound like a great jazz musician. I wish you the best of luck with it. If you have any questions or comments about this content, about the 2, 5, 1, 3, 6 chord progression, and you want to see that in the context of an actual standard, we can do that. Or you want to pick a standard and let me know what you want to learn, and I'll help you learn that particular standard following these guidelines. So I hope that makes sense. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel as well, I'd really appreciate it. We're just getting started here, so we need some more subscribers. So thanks for your time.